We are live. All right. Hello and good evening, Internet and Vanhoover Pony Fest. Or Pony Expo, I should say. I get all my cons a little confused. Somebody said they heard me. Hooray! Welcome to the Keeping Friendship Magic podcast, the podcast that looks at all things fandom and pop culture through a lens of social science and experience.
Welcome.
Yeah, Van. I know, Catherine. I'm sorry. Oh, we love you. All right, so welcome to what's going to be kind of a unique take on the podcast. We're going to do something a little bit different today. Normally, we have a special guest with us. Today, that special guest is you, the audience. So first of all, let's introduce ourselves. My name is Forward Progress, founder of the Keeping Friendship Magic project. And I don't know, I've done so many things without fandom at this point. You probably know me from something. Hopefully this. So, but to my left here,
I'm Nova Rose. I am, I guess, at this point, part of Keeping Friendship Magic as Forward here's co-panelist, partner in crime. I also do fun pony art and other fandom things from time to time.
So, we were trying to figure out what to do as our theme for this episode of the podcast. We talked about a few different topics, and we have a lot that we've been considering here. However, none of it felt right in our current culture and everything here. So we've been talking about doing a Q&A episode, and we thought this might be a perfect opportunity to do it. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about kind of the big elephant in the room, or in the country, in the world, I guess you could say, for a little here. And then we're going to be opening up the floor to all of you. So what we are kind of looking to discuss today is, what does friendship and community mean in our modern climate here, in our modern culture? And we'll get the elephant out of the room, I guess you could say. So I'm sure it's of no secret to anybody, but 3 days ago now it was,
Feels like an eternity.
a group of insurgents, I guess you could say, led an attack on the U.S. Capitol. And we don't know yet the extent of everything from it, how far it goes, if it could happen again. There's a lot of fear and uncertainty right now in our country. And I think in the world, really, of what is happening. And I think what I wanted to talk about today is, in spite of this, in this time where we have fear and uncertainty in our culture, in the world around us, how important the importance of community and friendship, and what it really means going forward during times like this. It feels like 2020 kind of pushed us down to a level where we've had to make a lot of adaptations to our everyday life, and I think we're gonna have to adapt again now. So I'm gonna start here. I'm gonna throw this over to you for a little here. And how have you been these last 3 days?
I know when I first saw the news, of course, I was absolutely mortified and terrified, like I'm pretty sure most of the people here were. And I think especially, I feel like especially probably like people of color or minorities, like I'm transgendered, and I know a lot of stuff going on as far as like legislature or whatever is not really kind to us during of this whole thing. So, needless to say, I've been pretty scared towards the future of the world. So, yeah, lots of fear.
Definitely. What we did that night, we went, we visited with our pod mate. You've seen him in some of our other programming, our good friend Kermit the Grog, and the three of us got together that night. And it was definitely a moment, I think, that we needed. We needed community and companionship, I think, more than, I don't want to say necessarily more than ever, but it almost felt like it.
Also, all of the hugs to chat.
Yes. We have friends. We live in Pennsylvania, and we live in the capital of Pennsylvania. So there's always that fear of violence spreading, of misinformation spreading, and that can alter how you feel and how you live your day-to-day life. And it's scary at times of trying to think of how to get through it. And I'm going to bring it into Pony, believe it or not, here, because what, for me, kept going through my mind the last couple of days is the differences between what we see oftentimes on camera, what we see in shows and in animation and our pop culture, versus what happens in real life. And I think it's one of these things that a lot of what's happened over the last year, if it was written into a show, I think we would have not believed that it was possible to happen. And all of a sudden it is happening. So it's kind of making us do a double take and really look, I think, in and of ourselves and of our media too. I think some of this has caused people to look in different ways. I am getting to Pony, but I'll back it up just a tiny bit here to Star Wars, of all things. I've seen a lot of people talking about how the prequels seem not so crazy anymore.
Ooh. You know, it's funny because I actually hadn't think about it until you just said that. And I'm like, yeah, you're right.
I took a sip for the chat. You're welcome. No, but I was thinking about season 9 of Pony, and the gathering of the villains to attack Equestria and attack Canterlot in those final episodes there. And it just really made me think about, in media, a lot of times our villains tend to be a lot more cut and dry. We knew that Tirac and Chrysalis were villains, and Cozy Glow at that point. Granted, I it was one of those, I always suspected she was a villain in season 8, but until we got to the end.
She was just too cute.
But I think that Cozy Glow actually brings up a really good talking point here of sometimes we don't 100% know who is or isn't going to be a villain until they pull the trigger. And I think Cozy Glow's a good example of that here. Of, you know, some pony who's working behind the scenes and setting things up. And there are warning signs, but you don't know until it actually happens. And then all of a sudden you start questioning things. You start questioning who you can trust. And I think... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, like, kind of jumping off of that, like, it's scary for me, considering, once again, like, the whole being transgender thing and what has been done over the past 4 years. It scares me knowing that almost 50% of our country voted for this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, while it definitely was a big win, it scares me knowing that there's still people that are rooting for him.
It's definitely a scary time.
And especially friends and family.
And it's a thing, and I feel like it's causing us to have conversations that are difficult, but we need to have. And I think that's a big point of, in my eyes, is the takeaway of what's happening right now. Is there's a couple things that I'm taking away. One is it's time to have conversations. It's time to really discuss what is happening in our minds, what our fears are. instead of letting them own us and control us, let's have these discussions about what happened, how we feel, what we're going to do moving forward. The other thing, and I think this is critical, and especially I get reminded being here this weekend, is I still believe that friendship is magic. Yes, there was a group of people who led an attack, but also, yes, they are being arrested. They're going to be brought to justice. They are not representative of us as a whole. Do we have a reason to fear people at times? Of course. But letting fear control us 100% is going to lead to a culture where we never move forward. And I think that that's an important thing, is being here as a part of the Brony community always reminds me that we can get through tough times together.
I think a great example of this is, like, I've been having a lot of emotional whiplash the past couple of days. I mean, first you had whatever the heck that was in DC, on top of I just got news that my mom had a stroke. Thankfully she's okay, but it's like I feel like this convention actually came at the perfect time, because, like, I know last night we had the Mad Lib panel, and, like, that was literally, like, hours after I got the news, and it, I think, was just what I needed to get back out of the state that I was in. And, like, if it wasn't for this, like, this community's amazing.
Life can really knock you down. And especially when you have to face it alone, or you feel like you have to face it alone, it's the scariest thing. And I think an important lesson to take away and something to keep in mind is that you don't ever have to be alone.
She is, thankfully.
Oh, yes. Yeah, we should definitely state that here. Rose's mother is in the hospital recovering. She is okay. She is set to make a full recovery. Right now, she's just there for more observation. Mm-hmm. It's unfortunate because we can't visit her because of COVID restrictions, but we have spoken with her on the phone, and all seems to be doing well. So, yeah. I knew we were going to get emotional in this episode. So, but yes, it can be easy to get overloaded, and especially somebody like myself and you, we've each gone through periods of suffering with our depression and anxiety. I mean, I have clinical depression and generalized anxiety disorder, so it's definitely going to be something that when you get extra stress like this put on you, it can be easy to kind of fall back into that as much progress as you've made. And talking to others, I think, is the most important thing, and that's what you can get through fandom. And I think that's the power of fandom and community, where we might be afraid of the world, almost, to say, to be blunt. There are times where I'm afraid of the world, but I know there are people who will listen to me, and that there is a community out here that will be supportive. And we don't always have time for each other, and we don't always have the ability to be everything somebody needs. But knowing that we're not alone, I think, is the most powerful thing in fandom and community.
Definitely. I mean, I know I've had my fair share. Like, it's interesting because I know COVID has had me be indoors way more than I normally would have been. Although, granted, like, I'm an introvert, so I'm indoors a lot. But I think with the political climate and the pandemic going on right now has definitely put people on edge, and is also, I think, bringing out the worst in people. Like, I know I was on a walk with Kermit early quarantine, and I had someone randomly out of their car freak to me. That was not pleasant. So yeah, stuff like that in the pandemic, not great when it comes to how you feel about the outside world that isn't your bed.
I think the interesting thing here, because a lot of us are cooped up right now, and we are feeling it in how do I put it? Like, we basically, our outlet is through online most of the time right now, which I know it would be great if we could be together in person. We can't right now, but it's also understandable. So these things allow people, I think, the internet has kind of allowed people to feel that sense of empowerment and anonymity to get to kind of voice things. But I feel that works both ways, because if they have that power, that means you have that power too. You have the power to be assertive even when you don't feel like you can be in person. You can take that and you can stand up for yourself, and you can choose who you follow. You can choose who follows you. You can choose these things. Yes, there may be more drama that exists out there, and we're not going to get rid of all drama. I mean, to be fair, if there was no, tension at all in the world, it would probably be a pretty boring place.
This is true.
Actually, I'm going to switch it to music for a minute, of all things. I love a lot of classic rock. I love Stevie Nicks, and she had an album called Trouble in Shangri-La. And I remember an interview she did talking about writing process and talking about how, in order to appreciate the idea of Shangri-La, you'd have to have something happening in it. You can never reach true perfection because you'll never appreciate the perfection without knowing how it could be otherwise. And I think that's a thing of, let's look within in this crazy time of our history and go, what can we learn from this to appreciate the good things, the simple moments together even more? How can we connect on a deeper level here? Because we all have the unifying factor of fandom. And I've met amazing people. Some of you are in this chat right now. You guys are fantastic. And getting to do just random things, like getting to do a random game night with friends, or just chatting with people from this community, just sometimes that's all it takes, I think, to pull you out of the gutter that life can throw at you. Sci-Fi are bringing up a great point. When something isn't perfect, you always have the knowledge that it can get even better. That is fantastic. It's so true. It's that there's that kind of cliche saying, you can only go up from here.
Yeah, pretty much.
So I think that is 100% true. And I love this. I love this community so much. But yeah, that's a definite thing. And I think right now there's a lot that's going to come out, and things are probably going to seem scarier even before it gets settled, before the dust settles. And let's face it, we're at a very odd time in America's history. And, obviously it is the epicenter right now because of what happened. But not just to say, what happens everywhere impacts everybody else. And I think that's important to keep in mind. What happens in America affects Canada. What happens in Canada affects America. What happens in Germany impacts America, impacts Canada. What happens in France? We are all part of this world together. We are connected more than ever, which in some ways, it's amazing. It's amazing. I can't believe that I can talk to people, like I've made friends in the UK and Germany and just all over, and you guys are amazing. And without the power that we have right now, yes, there's the negatives. Yes, people will be jerks and a-holes online. It is gonna happen. But I'm not gonna bring myself to that level. I'm going to focus on fandom in the community and making it stronger. And we're going to talk about these things, because by talking about these things, we learn, we grow, and we move forward together. I feel like I need a soapbox right now. I think the other thing that's been getting us through, honestly, the last couple of days is media.
Oh my gosh, more than ever.
It's been a couple of things. One has been preparing for this convention and the joy of having discussions with fans. But having to prepare for conventions, I end up going back and watching Pony, inevitably, to prepare for the panels for the weekend. So there was that. And the other thing is sometimes letting yourself discover new series. Our good buddy Thoth Penswell from Rift Ponies recommended to us the animated series Green Eggs and Ham we just started watching, which is fantastic.
I'm enjoying it greatly.
It is a lot of fun. We also discovered a new anime just the other night, and I'm not going to spoil it. I'm just going to tell you guys, we're going to mention it in The Tonight Show, and I'm not going to tell you what it is yet, because it's going to be a fun reveal. We'll just say that. But I think...
On the right track.
I want to share some of what's going on in the chat here. I'll shout out to Agent Brony here about... I understand. There is always that thing about your parents saying, don't talk to strangers, which is interesting.
It is very interesting.
Because it's twofold. Because it is always a fear, especially when you're very young, about talking to strangers. And especially like in person. Because you don't know where it's going to go and what's going to happen. Because there are creeps out there. We know this. This is a reality. But there's also the other level and layer on top of that, especially online, where you can develop interactions and friendships. And I think that's the power of the internet, is the ability to develop friendships that are theoretically non-threatening. Because I'm like, especially, you know, my international friends that I wouldn't know otherwise. I think that the power of social media, of connectivity through online, is that you can discover things and you don't have to worry about, oh, they're going to abduct me the next day. Now, granted, maybe not give out your physical address to somebody you've never met, you know, things like that. But I think that there is a power and an ability to be able to harness what we have to find a way to connect without sacrificing our protection and our freedom and our safety.
Also, I just want to go say it's not Love Live, but I have been wanting to watch that. It is on my list.
And I'm gonna Shyfire is knocking it out of the park with some of these here. Talking about spending so much time online, but it's an awesome place where you know how to avoid the nasty. You can meet so many people when you're not limited to whoever is around you or at your school, and it's the reason that they've met many of us, and I'm right here with that. 100%. So I guess the big thing here next would be to talk about how do we move forward from here. You know, what is next? And I think it's going to be a challenging time. And I think that we all kind of have to buckle up right now, because between COVID,
buckle up, buckaroos,
and lockdown and, you know, uncertainty, both domestically for us here in America. Obviously not everybody is from America, but also I think internationally, because, you know, anytime you're talking anything on a political scale that has ramifications throughout the world, we are all, you know, together through this. And I think we all need to be aware of our feelings first and foremost moving forward.
Exactly. Like, I know I had recently got hit with, I guess, some feelings from my past, due to some, of course, drama on Twitter. Some stuff was brought up, or that it made me have to go deal with feelings I haven't felt in like freaking 4 years. And it was nice because I finally got to think about it and made like a giant super post, essentially, like saying all the stuff that happened. But I'm glad that social media was kind of there, with that can be my outlet to kind of say like, hey, this is the stuff that's on my mind.
Definitely. You know, things will pop up. And I think a thing that I've talked about this before, but I'm not sure if I've ever talked about it on the podcast. That there's a lot of times people are very quick to slam others for being apathetic. And I understand that sentiment, but I feel like there's kind of another level to that of we all have stuff we're dealing with here. And it's almost impossible for anybody to truly know how much the next person is dealing with. You know, I have home. I have, keeping this place together. I have work. I have, keeping my relationship strong, which I hope I'm succeeding at.
Most definitely.
Okay, good.
I will say.
Good. You're not just saying that because everybody's watching, right?
No.
I love you, babe.
I love you too.
Mwah. Anyway. But there's all of that. And, there's always financial struggles. There are, like family issues that can be happening, whether you have a family member that's sick or whether, you're dealing with, especially I think both of us know that feeling of coming out of the closet and, having some people who love or are going to love you and stand by you and other people who are going to, shun you and having the stress of that. And all these different layers. And then you talk about some of the other... So these are all your personal things going on. And then you have on top of that, things happening, people storming the Capitol, crazy people on Twitter. All of these things that just stack up on each other. And eventually it becomes to a point where you can only handle so much. And I want to stress that I think that that's okay. That handle what you can handle and take it one thing at a time. And respect that we're all going through our own struggles. And we can talk about things together, but some people are actively going to be able to do more than others, and that's okay.
I mean, kind of piggybacking, but going back to my super post. I mean, as a quick little PSA, if you or anyone is experiencing any type of either emotional or physical abuse, like talk to people, like people in the fandom you got close to, talk to your loved ones. Like it's really good to talk to people about that stuff, because you can be like a dum-dum like me, not talk about it, and it blows up in horrific ways. So yeah, talk to people.
Definitely. We've got some new additions to the chat again.
Love you, Todd.
Don't be afraid to speak out. Don't be afraid to speak to your friends. Don't be afraid to seek help if you need it. That is the biggest thing. I never would have gone to where I am today if I hadn't sought out help for my depression and my anxiety. It was about a decade ago now that I went out and I talked to doctors about what I was going through. And if I had never done that, I don't know. And this is going to sound dramatic, but I'm being kind of dead serious. I don't know if I would still be alive. It was very hard for me growing up, undiagnosed, living with depression and anxiety and always being afraid of the world. So, if you're feeling anything mentally, whether it's from, anything that would shake your mental health, and sometimes it is abusive situations, and you might not even be sure if it's an abusive situation.
Like, I remember when I finally put the pieces together that I was in an abusive relationship, it was like just so weird, sudden, and it was like I was in the weirdest place when I got it, but it was like the moment you have that aha moment, it's like definitely like immediately take steps to like either remove yourself from that situation or seek help.
Yeah, we all have our own. There's always something that is going to be like, something that is a part of you. The biggest thing here is that no matter what it is, if you're dealing with, anything with mental health, if you've been abused, if you are struggling socially, whatever it is, it doesn't define who you are. It is a part of who you are. I'll tell you one thing that always gets me too, because one of the benefits of this community and going and doing conventions and being parts of fandom is I've met so many people from so many different walks of life and different things that they are going through. And I've met so many amazing members of the autistic, I want to say autistic community. I don't think that that's fair to say, but so many amazing individuals who have some form of autism. And it's the thing that I always tell people is that type of thing doesn't define you. It is a part of who you are. And I have a great friend of ours, Jeffrey, who is a autism advocate, and he's spoken at various conventions. He writes fan fiction. He's a great guy. I believe it's Twilight Sparkle 354762. It's something along those lines. Anyway, fantastic human being. I've gotten to have great conversations with him over the years, and it opened my eyes to different struggles people are going through, and a lot of misinformation that's out there. So when I see that people say like, autism is a disease or people are suffering from it, and I'm like, this doesn't define who they are. Just like being gay doesn't define who you are. Being transgender doesn't define who you are. It is a piece of you. It is a part of you. But your personality is so much more. And the best thing is when you can get with others and be members of communities that recognize and support that. And I feel like we have things started here in this fandom that we can grow out from here. I didn't really leave much room for you, did I?
Not really. You said everything I was going to.
Just always be you. I think being yourself is the bravest thing a person can do. I really do. I really think it takes a lot of bravery and courage to not hide and to be yourself and to come, just to be open. It takes a lot. But you also find that by doing that, you feel so much better about yourself and everyone around you.
Also, I definitely agree with the come to BlepCon sentiment. BlepCon shout out. And like as far as I honestly cannot wait to just freaking go to a physical convention and like hug all of you.
Oh my gosh, we're gonna have so many hugs. We're gonna have like a line for hugs, I think, at this point.
Are we gonna be the people carrying the free hug signs?
I think we should just get free hug shirts made at this point here. So we've got about 20 minutes or so left. So we've been checking in on the chat as we've been going through, but I kind of want to throw it out to all of you now. We've kind of talked a lot about what friendship means and community and what's happening in the world, but we wanted to know what you guys want to talk about here. So feel free if shout out if you have questions either for us. It can be on anything, or topics you want to discuss relating to fandom, friendship, etc. Bring it on. Let's talk about that for the next 20 minutes or so and see where the conversation takes us. We'll give you guys a moment to kind of get your thoughts together and what you want to talk about. While I see there's discussions of shirt designs happening in the chat. Oh gosh, we're gonna have the Free Hug Brigade. Man, this is a merch idea. Free hugs at Vanhoover noted, indeed. Gosh, this is
KFM branded free hugs.
Get your exclusive Keeping Friendship Magic hug. Gosh, we are not that bad, honey.
What would a free fuff entail? I'm curious.
All right, Samu Dash said about free fuffs. I don't know.
Oh, fuff.
I feel like we should know because granted, I didn't write it. We have to ask Argenbarger, I guess. We have to ask Argenbarger what a fuff is exactly.
Although, didn't he just accidentally typo fun? Like, wasn't that an accidental typo?
It is, actually. It is. We already have an established fuff economy. Those are called Riff Ponies panels from Thought. I apparently we missed the sips at opening ceremonies too, unfortunately. So we'll have all the continued fuffs going forward here.
I can just imagine a freaking like Blockbuster style shirt with KFM on it.
But no, that has to be Riff Ponies.
Or Riff
we cannot
Ponies.
steal that from our friends at Riff Ponies.
Thoth, you need to go trademark this.
Oh, we can answer that one. That's fine. We got I'm gonna butcher this. Is that Giant X-Maw? I can't pronounce your name. But asked how we feel about popular MLP ships going around. Okay, so here's a fun. My favorite, here's my thing. I've actually years ago I wrote a blog all about shipping. My opinion on shipping in general is it's not harming anybody to ship any pony or any character. This is your head and your fantasy and your headspace, and you are free to enjoy any of them. Granted, we got a Flutterdash fan. Got to keep the Pegasi Alliance, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I was always a big shipper of Lyra and Bonbon, even before episode 100, and then episode 100 came around, and it was it for life, and now it's canon, and they're married.
That actually really threw me for a loop. Like, I did not expect them to throw that in there.
So, my favorite non-canon ship at this point has become Galbar. Gallus and Sandbar. I think they would be adorable together, but that's mine. A lot of people ship Gallus and Yona from what we saw in the series, and that's... not Gallus, I'm sorry, Sandbar and Yona. And that's great, too. That is fantastic. It's enjoy it and live your truth and enjoy it. Make art of it. Write stories about it. That's what we're here for. The beauty of the final episode of My Little Pony was that it was set up to make it where we as a community can pick up from here. We get to decide what is next and live this truth going forward. And we may not always agree, but I think the most important thing for us as a community is to respect each other and what we like, what our ships are, why we like it. It's kind of like, and here, do you want to get into a controversial topic?
I was going to go say something real quick first.
Go ahead.
I know, like, especially in the early days of the fan, I was really into fanfics, and, like, I was really surprised by the amount of Twi Luna fanfictions there were, and, like, it's funny, like, now, like, just seeing as the series has gone on, I'm like, yeah, this shit actually makes a lot of sense.
So, if you have been on social media, in particular Twitter lately, and it's very shocking to me that this is coming up now, because this has been discussed for literally years now, is the idea that Trixie might be a trans character. So, we'll dive in here. you may think that Trixie is trans. You may think Trixie is not trans in your headcanon, and either space is fine. However, there is, like, I think the bottom line is to respect each other's opinion. There is definitely evidence to support this. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to go say, just as a little, like, side thing of this, anyway, as a little side thing, the whole trans Trixie thing apparently came from, two things. One of which is, I guess people noticed that pretty much all mares have two little eye shines, and I think Trixie only has one, which is usually reserved for, stallions and colts. And then the other one is apparently in the original writing, Lauren Faust actually came out saying that the original idea was that Trixie was supposed to go be a stallion, but they ended up switching her to go be a mare when the show actually came out.
Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, I think somebody on the show may at some point said that there was discussion about having a trans character in season 1. Somebody would have to fact check me on that, though. But here's the bottom line. It's never discussed one way or another on the show. And the reality here, and I don't want to speak for you, honey, but we've had this interesting discussion about what does proper and accurate transgender representation look like.
And this was interesting, is like, I feel like it's going to be a multi-phase thing. Like, I'm noticing that there's starting to be like little snippets of trans characters in media. I know, think of it what you may. I know Big Mouth recently just came out with their new season, with the first like 3 or 4 episodes they had a trans character, and touched from a trans person, like, they handled that situation way better than I thought they would. Like, they touched like a lot of the issues that we are dealing with. Now, I think ultimately the end goal is to make it so that, like, there's like a trans character, and like maybe it might be naturally brought up, but it's like that's not the core of their character.
Well, because this is an interesting thing, where we get to have a very, I feel, unique perspective, which usually happens with us. I'm a gay cisgender man marrying a transgender woman.
We're odd.
We are interesting, but we love each other, and that's what matters. And at the end of the day, I'm marrying a woman. I don't look at her as anything other than that. I never have. No matter how her body is looked, I've always looked at you as a woman ever since you came out. And I've always loved you for that. And so, I love you. But representation-wise, at the end of the day, you want to be represented as your true gender. So, it's kind of a difficult thing, because it's like, you could have a transgender character, but, like, at the end of the day, we all just want to be looked at as ourselves and not just be judged because we are cis, trans, gay, straight, you name it, bi, pan, intersex, asex.
What have you?
I know, I like to be all-inclusive, but we are who we are, and if you like it, if you like to think of Trixie as trans, that's fine. If you don't think that there's enough evidence that you want to go with that, that's okay. It's not set as the canon, but respect that everybody has a headcanon, and, like, you might not always agree on it, but that doesn't make the next person wrong.
Now, I guess hopping from one subject to another, because I noticed there has been a couple of questions about Equestria Girls.
Oh, Equestria Girls. Okay.
And I've been in the fandom since the hiatus of season 1 and season 2, so like I was in the thick of it when Equestria Girls was first announced. And I remember seeing And yes, I agree, Samu Dash. But like I remember kind of like hopping on the train of like, what is this madness that they're showing here? These designs look awful.
Aww.
And then the first movie came out, thought it was awful. If people like it, that's to each their own. But then I remember the second movie came out, and we saw it in the movie theater, and I absolutely.
We love you, chat.
Yes. But I absolutely loved the second film. Like, I think it was leagues better than the first one. And then the next couple films, like, it was just like, okay, nope, I'm on board now. And now we recently discovered that, like, they've been creating so many shorts over the past couple of years, and it apparently just became a show about memes, which Meme Lord here am totally okay with.
I gotta tell you guys, we do love Equestria Girls, and we have a lot of fun with it. If you want to see evidence of that, look up the Meme That Pony panels we've done at other conventions. There's some fun moments, but I'll tell you, I was very unsure about Equestria Girls at first, but Rainbow Rocks really did. And I'll tell you, my favorite Equestria Girls movie is Friendship Games, actually. I thought it was amazing. I loved it so much. I loved everything they did with Sunset Shimmer's character. I loved what they did with Sai Chwai. I thought it was really unique, unexpected, but still within the spirit of the series and what they were doing with Equestria Girls. I think it's interesting to respect it on its own the same way we can respect Pony Life for what it is. It's not the series, but it has some elements. And, it's, I like to look at the four main films as the journey of Sunset Shimmer. And when you look at it like that, it honestly takes some of the things from the first movie and really does make it better, and you look at it in that perspective. I really think there's something there that's definitely to be respected.
Also, like, I always found it interesting how people compared Starlight to Sunset, where it's like, where I think they both started pretty similarly. Like, it's interesting seeing, like, the divergences of their paths and their character. But,
oh, yeah. Oh, definitely. Because that's the other thing, too, is respecting the fact that the characters in Equestria Girls, while similar to the ones in Equestria, they are still technically unique characters that are going on different journeys. Equestria doesn't have the typical high school. We don't really know much other than the schoolhouse that Cheerilee runs and Princess Celestia's School for Magic. I don't know if we know any other schools in Equestria, do we? No. Well, in the School of Friendship. I'm sorry, School of Friendship. We have to get that out there. Which I think, ironically, got to be the most school-like school we've seen.
Now, did we ever get to actually see what happened to Equestria Girl World Sunset? Or is that just, like, never brought up?
I've always wanted a graduation episode finale. I think a lot of us have. I don't know if we'll ever get it. Or movie, I should say. Oh, I forgot about Flim and Flam's school. Granted, it was a sham.
Their characters are a sham.
They're like everything they do. What was that clip from Best Gift Ever where it's like, capitalism is the greatest gift. Flim and Flam. We've got about 6 minutes or so left before we want to wrap it up so we can give time for everybody else coming up after us. But if anybody has any other topics or questions they want to bring up, feel free to spam us in the chat. We'll try to get what we can here.
Didn't we have an hour and a half or just an hour?
That's an hour for this, hour and a half for tonight's show. Speaking of which, while everybody thinks of their thoughts, plug, we are doing My Little Tonight Show again in about a little over an hour. We've got a couple special guests. We're going to be joined. It'll be, again, myself, Nova Rose, and Thoth Penswell. But we're going to be joined by Bolt the Super Pony and the one and only voice of Terramar and recent Spider-Man, Cole Howard, is going to be joining us. So it's going to be a lot of fun. But I can always count on the chat for good images and memes. Let me tell you what.
No, I remember seeing a chat question a little earlier about which one we like better, the Equestria Girls or the main series, and it's one of those interesting things. Is I feel like it's the same thing with Pony Life too, where I think all three of them do completely different things. Like, where they have the same groundwork, they're three very different shows. So it's like, to kind of like say which one I like better is like, I can't really compare them, to be honest.
Well, and it's honestly, the other thing too is looking at generation to generation. Generation 1, My Little Pony, is very different from Generation 4. And Generation 1, though, like, while very 80s, there's some definite takeaways. Some of it is metal AF. Let me tell you. G1 T-Rex?
Also, Gen 3.5, as horrific as it is, great riffing material. So even that has its merits.
You know what? And this is something I had to learn in life, is that I'm not always going to like something, but somebody else might get something from it. Might get something that actually, like, gives them comfort, gives them something to think about, gives them a sense of security, what have you. There's all these great things we get from media, but especially when it comes to this, it's like who am I to judge somebody else getting joy?
Mm-hmm.
It's not my place. And, if it gives you joy, fantastic. If it doesn't, okay, cool. Then we probably agree. But I'm not going to shove my opinion down your throat to say... Now, that doesn't mean don't share your opinion either. I want to be clear about that. Because it's like, there are episodes. Here's a great thing. There's episodes of Pony that I don't like that I know other people love, and vice versa. And that's okay. I've had heated discussions in the past, and I had to think about it. I had to come away with this takeaway of like, why am I so heated about this? Why am I trying to diss on something from somebody else? And if somebody gets joy out of it, there's obviously something there. So who are we to steal someone else's joy and happiness? At the end of the day. We may not get the same things out of the same characters or the same things out of the same episodes, but that's okay. I always feel like we should have more discussions and less arguments.
It is interesting because I know, like, me, I've been super getting into the whole the VTuber rabbit hole.
Yeah.
But I know Forward here, he doesn't mind them, but he's not into it nearly as much as I am, and it's like, oh my gosh, I want to go share this thing that I love and I find really entertaining with the person I love, but it's like, sometimes it doesn't happen. We're two completely different people. But I will say, like, I finally found a connection to someone that does like them as much as I do, and oh my gosh, when that happens, it's magical. I guess you can kind of say the whole thing about the pony fandom. Like,
exactly.
Finding people that likes technicolored horses as much as you do is quite amazing.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, we've got a little bit of time. We got asked favorite pony. You go.
My favorite pony has changed a lot. My initial favorite pony was Fluttershy, then it went to Rarity, then it went to Starlight, and now it's kind of like a mixture of Fluttershy and Starlight, because I love what happened in the journey that Fluttershy went throughout the series. Her saying, have you learned a lesson once and completely changed who you are. Like, that line sticks home so hard. I love it. Of course, I think so. Canonically, it's probably like a tie between those two, but like my real favorite pony is the OC Blackjack because of my own personal reasons and connections to her.
Hang on, I'm getting mine. My favorite pony is Special Agent Sweetie Drops. I love what they did. I thank you, M.A. Larson, for having the genius of taking a character with different voices and 2 different names and finding a unique way to do things with her, and all the great things that she did in the background over the series. I love it. I'm someday when I say this is going to get in the mind of the right person, tell me you wouldn't read a comic book of the adventures of Lyra and Bon Bon and they go on spy adventures together. Tell me that wouldn't be an amazing comic book.
See, I remember, like, in the early fandom, I don't remember who made them, but I know there was a comic strip about Lyra and Bon Bon being roommates, but, like, I think that was long before the whole spy thing came around.
There's Silly Lyra. Silly Lyra is pretty fun.
Yeah.
All right.
Sorry. I was going to say, and then if anyone remembers, there was also a comic strip with Derby Hooves and Carrot Top. Those were also fun. I miss those early fandom comic strips.
Yeah, there is a book. There is a GM Barrow book. Yep. I just want more. Give me more. I cannot be satisfied. All right.
You just want a whole series.
We got to wrap things up so we can let the next panel go on. I want to thank each and every one of you in the chat for taking this journey with us today. I just want to say just all the love for all of you. You're amazing. This community is amazing. We can find power in fandom and being together. And I want to just, I'm going to live that to the day I die. I want to thank you for being a part of this with us again, Miss Rose.
Of course. It's always good to be part of this.
And as always, I'm your host, Forward Progress. And remember to keep friendship magic out there in the world. Thank you all for joining us today.
Bye-bye.